Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to share with you 5 top tips to help improve your solos and improvisation. Now recently I asked on my social media channels about ideas for YouTube, if there's anyone would like to see, and this is something that come up quite a lot actually, is people are struggling with improvisation. Maybe you're finding that all your solos are sounding the same when you're jamming over backing tracks. Maybe you're finding that you can't come up with new ideas. Maybe you're finding you're playing the same old licks, just stuck in a rut. That's something I hear from guitarists all the time, and this video I'm going to share 5 top tips to help you improve all of that stuff. Stay tuned and I'll show you some cool soloing and improv ideas. In this video then, we're going to talk about solo and improvisation stuff, but if you haven't done it already, make sure you click like to like the video, hit subscribe to subscribe to the channel, and click that alert bell so you don't miss any updates. Right, let's just get stuck into this. Now, of course, there's loads of stuff that we can do to help with our solo and improvisation, but I'm just going to share 5 tips with you in this video. So, tip number 1, start learning full solos by ear, not with tab or YouTube videos. Now, that is pretty difficult. I know it takes a lot longer to learn stuff by ear than it does by looking at tabs and getting taught it through YouTube. However, the benefits so outweigh all the time extra it's going to take you to do this. Now, I will say for myself, if I was to learn a song by ear versus learning it from a tab, for example, I could probably pick up a solo within 15 minutes by looking at the tab if I know how the solo sounds. And maybe if it's by ear, you're talking 4 or 5 times the time, maybe an hour to 2 hours. So it's quite a lot longer, obviously depending on how hard the solo is. If it's something really difficult, it's going to take way longer. But that's just a very rough average. It probably takes 4 to 5 times the amount of time to be able to learn something by ear. But the thing is, when you learn a solo by ear, it sticks in your fingers. You'll remember the licks, you'll remember the phrasing, you'll remember the rhythm, and it's with you forever and ever and ever. Now, I started playing guitar back in the 90s, long before the internet, and there was no way to sort of put into Google tab for this or YouTube video for that. You just had to put on the CD or cassette and learn it. And there's stuff that I learned when I was in early teens that I can still play today, and I literally have not played it since, because it's when you've done it by ear, you've invested the time in learning it properly, the stuff sticks with you forever, and it really impacts your playing way more than when you learn something from a tab. It's sort of like instant gratification. You get the solo down, but you forget it and you don't really absorb it. So that's probably the most important tip that I'm going to share with you in this video. Start learning solos by ear. Now, YouTube's amazing for this because you can decrease the speed. Massive advantage when doing this. And if you think, well, I can't play stuff by ear, I find it really difficult, now is the time to start learning how to do that. Tip number 2 then. Now, this is another one I find guitarists don't want to do because it can be a little bit embarrassing, but it is, can you sing a solo? Now, all you will do then, you put on a backing track, and can you sort of sing your way through a solo? Now, it doesn't have to be good. You don't have to be a singer. I am not a singer by any means. I'm actually quite bad at singing. I mean, I can hold a tune, but I'm not great. But I find when it comes to improvisation, if you can sing it, you can play it. So all you will do is sing a solo and then try and find the notes on the guitar. Now, obviously do this in the comfort of your own home. You know, I wouldn't necessarily, as I'm not going to do in this video, demonstrate it for people to see because I'm not a great singer. But however, if I sort of have a new chord sequence that I'm stuck for ideas with, I'll just listen to it, the chord sequence a few times, and try and sing a kind of basic solo. Maybe record it as a voice note on your phone, or if you're using a recording software such as Logic or GarageBand, record it into that and see how it sounds, because then you can just pick out the notes on the guitar. And what you're doing there then, you're also doing a bit of ear training because you're singing something and then you're copying it on the guitar. So for me, that is a massive way of starting to play melodies when you're soloing. What it also does then, it gets you off the guitar soloing autopilot mode. So what you might find when you're soloing sometimes, you put on a backing track and your fingers sort of land in your pentatonic shapes and you just play the same old licks without really sort of listening to what's going on. When you're consciously listening to the backing track and singing, you're in it. You're really involved in that solo and it's music coming out rather than your autopilot licks. And that's another point actually. Start consciously listening to guitarists you like the solo. So There's one thing about the listening, you know, when you're washing the dishes, you're going for a walk, you're in the gym, music's going in, but you're concentrating on something else. Take one of your favorite guitar solos and actually listen, sit there really intensively and listen to the solo, listen to the phrasing, listen to the scales. Maybe you recognize stuff, maybe you don't. But the more you hear stuff, the more it's going in. And then see if you can actually sing along with that solo. And again, it doesn't have to be good, it doesn't have to be in tune. It's all about that kind of getting the music into your brain, because if it's there, it's going to come out in your fingers, because at some point with improvisation, you want to almost be hearing the solo you're playing as you're playing it. Now that, some of you, if you're sort of new to this, that might feel like a long way away, but with time it will get better. So I know for myself, if I'm improvising, it's there before it reaches my fingers, and singing solos, singing along with solos and doing this sort of thing will massively help that. Tip number 3, now this is something we're all guilty of, is playing in the same key over and over again. So let's just say you love to play in A minor. You might put on a blues backing track in A minor, you might put on a rock backing track in A minor, and you're always jamming the same licks in the same place in your pentatonic boxes. So the tip is then, just do a key change. Go to somewhere else. Go to F minor, to G minor, to B flat minor. Just get out of your comfort zone, okay? Straight away, it might not sound as good, but you'll start playing a little bit differently because you're not seeing the same thing on the fretboard. Like certainly when you look at the fretboard, if you say you're used to playing in this area, by shifting it to say there, everything looks and feels a bit different. So you'll start playing different licks, okay? So something as simple as that, just change key and see how you get on with. We'll just start breaking out of those ruts and getting you out of those repetitive guitar autopilot licks that your fingers are used to playing over and over. Tip number 4 then is learn a couple of new licks. Now you don't have to learn 100 licks to be able to play a guitar solo. A lick is just a short musical phrase, say something like this. Let's say that was my lick. I would just say, listen to, I don't know, a Stevie Ray Vaughan or a Slash or a Hendrix or whatever it is, and I'd think, oh, I like that sort of bit he plays there, and you steal it. So whether you know, for this, I would definitely recommend doing this by ear, slow down the YouTube video and just do it by ear. But if you need to grab the tab, do that. If it's going to help you just learn the lick, if you're really struggling, learn the lick. And then just think, right, if he's playing that in that way, that gives me one new lick, but you can just play half of it. So what I'm doing is I'm dissecting the licks. So you can do this with licks you already know as well. So if you know longer licks, start chopping them up so you get mini licks. So rather than big long licks, you get little ones. There's 2 licks in one. So your ideas, rather than having big long ones, you end up with lots of little mini licks. So if you're playing around the fretboard, you know, that lick there I played is the same as the low one, the first half. So by dissecting your longer licks, you end up with a lot more mini licks, which is sometimes easier to play when improvising. So you're not always thinking, right, I'm going to play this bit of this pentatonic scale now, and then I'm going to get that lick in. You have all these mini licks that you already know, and they'll just start coming out, okay? So learn some new licks, dissect them like that, and also look back at the licks you already know. If they're long, just chop them up into bits. It could be, if you know a lick that's 4 beats long, you might just take the first beat. Or you might take the second beat, and from there you'll end up with way more licks by just regurgitating the stuff you already know and just looking at them in a different way. What you can also do then, you can take the same lick and just try and learn it somewhere on the neck. So the same thing. Can I play that then somewhere else on the neck? Well, I already played it higher. You know, learning the same information in different places gets you out of the comfort zone and away from your kind of safety boxes, if you like. And also you'll start finding when you're in different areas of the neck, then licks sound different. You might have to phrase them a little bit differently, throwing you kind of away from, again, that autopilot guitar lick thing you'll be stuck in. Tip number 5 then, the final tip of this video, is to start looking at the chords and listening to what you're actually playing over the top of. So what I mean by that then, if you have a chord sequence, let's say we had something simple like C major, A minor, F major, and G major. Now the kind of classic guitarist thing to do would be, right, let me find my root, come back 3 frets and play the minor pentatonic scale, which is cool, you can totally do that, but you're missing a lot of information there by not actually looking at the chords. The sound of these chords tells you a lot of music in them. Now this is something I will expand on in other videos, as it's quite a lot of stuff to learn with this, but certainly start tuning into the sound of the chords, because I could play a solo just based off, for example, the root notes of the chords. There's my C, A minor, F to G, C, A, F to G. I'm just playing the roots of the chords, but again, this is from listening to what's actually going on, and let your ear guide you a lot of the time as well, tying in with tip number 1. And if you're familiar with the CADE system, you'll be able to see some of the chord shapes. You can play the C like this. And sort of look at the notes. So I can see with the C, I've got a sort of a little cluster there, A minor. I've got the same kind of cluster there. Okay, similar, but I've got to get that finger down, and then G, these close notes. Okay, so by knowing a bunch of different chords, it really will expand your soloing. So chords are not necessarily for rhythm. They're a massive, massive help in your soloing as well. So start looking at some more chords and really pay attention to where your fingers are in relation to the pentatonic scale or whatever scales you might be using. Okay, so that's my 5 top tips for trying to improve your solo improvisation. Now, I know that's kind of a brief look into all of them, and what I'm going to do is I will be making a bunch of other videos on this same topic, kind of like a guitar solo and improvisation 101. I'll look at each of those things plus other things to really, really help you become a better guitarist, and also really help you learn how to improvise more confidently, more fluently around the neck, and start playing some really, really great solos of your own. Hope you enjoyed that video then. If you haven't done already, click like to like the video, hit subscribe to subscribe to the channel, and click that alert bell so you don't miss any updates. If you're interested in learning more of this sort of stuff, come and check out my guitar school at www.fretlix.com. Loads of great courses and lessons. I have a course that I've designed talking about all this sort of stuff called the Guitar Solo Fundamentals. It teaches you all of these kind of tips and tricks plus techniques you need to know to start soloing. Come and check it out. I'll put a link below in the description. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.